Coming up, it's live from my office. A special guest is Mark Giangreco. He's great. And just like me, he's got great hair. More on Mark and what we're talking about. And of course, incessant plugs for the big live show he and I will do, where Mark Giangreco tells stories he can't or couldn't tell on TV. Prior to that, thanks to our sponsors at Apt Electronics, our friends. I spend my money there. How come you haven't? What? Oh, you say you have. Well, you might need something new, too, before August is up. You know, Apt is your number one destination for the home, and they offer award-winning services for everything you need. You could choose from thousands of in-stock items, whether you're replacing an old furnace or an air conditioner, updating your electrical work, replacing a sink or a faucet. Apt has you covered. There's mattresses, there's car stereo, there's in-home sound, there's TVs, there's computers, there's watches, there's furniture, there's everything you need for your kitchen and more. I mean, Apt has you covered. And did you know that every product purchased from Apt comes with a free lifetime technical support thrown in? Our experts are there for you 7 days a week, no matter what your question is, for free in-home delivery, for professional installation, for complete satisfaction. You got to do what I do, and apparently what you do as well. Shop at Apt. Apt pleasing people since 1936, or as I like to say, pleasing people since the Big Bang. Boy, am I glad you're here today. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, and anyone else I haven't covered. It's time for Live from my office. My special guest today coming up, I interview Mark Giangreco. There's never been anybody better than Mark Giangreco giving you sports on TV. He'd be given a tiny amount of time, and he would entertain you like he had the whole newscast. And he'd do it time after time after time after time. In 50 years of TV and radio, you can imagine that this is probably not shocking to you, but he's covered everything, every story, every major story. Giangreco has been there. And the interesting thing is, because of who he is and how talented he is, a lot of those guys became friends. They were certainly friendly to him. Now, that doesn't mean he didn't tell the truth. He'll talk about his relationship with Mike Ditka, or lack of one. He'll also talk about why Michael took a liking to him and how well they got along. And he'll talk about what he loved about doing what he did and does. Nobody better than Mark Giangreco. So the reason Mark's on is not just because we're friends, and we are. It's because we're doing a show. Mark Giangreco and I will be live at the White Eagle Golf Club at 7 o'clock on August 28th, and you are invited. I hope you can make it. Oh, that's right. We spent a lot of money on a fancy graphic. I should show you that. Sit there. Yeah, there you go. Mark Giangreco's stories he couldn't tell on TV. Thursday night, August 28th, 7 o'clock, White Eagle Golf Club, CochranShow.com. Scroll down past Handsome Mark. You'll see a button that says Get Tickets Now. Click on that to get tickets now. And we want to see you there. It's going to be a great night. And it's not like he's going to do it again. So this is a one and done. Mark Giangreco telling stories he couldn't tell on TV. And somebody will win an Apt TV that night. We'll have some special guests there as well I'll introduce to you. But it's all about Mark. And Mark telling those stories. Again, he knows everybody. And, and he'll even talk about being fired, an area that I'm quite familiar with. So I hope you can be there. Again, 7 o'clock, August 28th, on stage, White Eagle Golf Club in Naperville. Mark Giangreco. And after I park his car outside, I'll come in and I'll host. All right, moving forward, let's get to the show. Mark's standing by now. All right, of all the cheap thrills you can have, I hope at some point you have a chance to say, ladies and gentlemen, Mark Giangreco. Hi, buddy.
What's happening, my brother?
Nice to have you here for the big announcement for those unaware, and I think we've gotten the word out fairly nicely, but for those unaware,
absolutely. Hey, we got Mad Hatter Day going here.
Right, don't we? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you happen to check this out?
I can't quite tell the logo.
That is the world famous Toronto Argonauts of the Canadian football.
Oh, okay.
You know what is an Argonaut?
What is an Argonaut?
Remember Jason and the Argonauts?
Oh, yeah.
An Argonaut is basically a Greek sailor, and they went on all these adventures with Jason, you know. And
Oh, geez.
the boat was called the Argo also.
We won't be covering this at our live show.
Yeah.
It's Thursday night, August 28th at the beautiful White Eagle Golf Club in Naperville. Public's invited, of course, and it's where they normally do the weddings. And I don't think you and I need to be in a dress, though. We'd look good.
No, yeah, we don't need to have any more marriages, I don't think.
Well, there's that, too. So the good news is you folks who want to come, and I hope you do, Mark's going to be able to do something that he couldn't do before, and that is tell stories you couldn't tell on TV. Now, there's two reasons for that. Reason number one, you got to explain a little bit because it's a little bit technical. And that is, in each newscast, how much time did you have to do the day?
Oh, well, back in the day, in the 80s and mid 90s, we'd get 4 minutes if it was a big night. We would just go to the news director or the executive producer on duty and say, hey, we've got this, and this. Can I have some extra time? Yeah, we'll squeeze it. We'll drop this thing. We'll fit this in. Weather might give you a little time back. Then it went from 4 minutes to 3.5. Then it went to 3. Then it went to 2:30. Then it's, can you do 1:30? No. The guys now are down to like 2 minutes. It's horrifying. It's terrible.
It's ridiculous, and it's one of the reasons they shoot themselves in the ass, and it's why local news is struggling, because there's a thing in ratings, and I've only seen two people in 30 plus years in Chicago that this applies to. It's Tom Skilling and you. You can look at these things called minute by minutes. And the minute by minute ratings always spiked when you were doing sports, the same way they did when Skilling was doing weather. So cutting you to 2.5 minutes, are you kidding me?
There's a famous Tom Skilling story. The great Bob Vorwald, one of my best friends, and
tremendous
producer
guy.
at Channel 5. He was an intern at Channel 9 when he was going to Northwestern. And Skilling used to get 9 minutes if he needed it.
Right.
You know, he was the king.
Right.
So they hired this new producer, and she was from a different market, and it was supposed to be rapid, pace. They had the consultant in and everything else, and all the other stations she worked. But at Channel 9, it's Skilling, and then it's everybody else, and that's why their ratings were so great. I think he was the most popular on-air person in the history of Chicago television. So this woman is wrapping him up one night. Like, that's it. He's only halfway through the 97 maps that he has already made.
Right.
And, Tom is the sweetest, nicest, kindest guy in the world. And Bob said he's sitting there, and Vorwald was just terrified. They finally get off the air after she cut him off, and they went to commercial. And Skilling went into an absolute vulgar tirade. Blah, 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 blah. Called her every name in the book. Bob's under the desk. People in the newsroom are taking cover.
Wow.
That's a classic Skilling story.
Well, yeah, the thing is, you know this, I know this. If you get in front of a mic or get in front of a camera and you're good at it and you're around for a while, you've got an internal clock. And the person on the floor for a TV newscast is to keep the ship moving in the same direction. It's not to kill a moment. It's not to kill a vibe. And to not understand he was the guy, or in the case of management and producers down the road for you, that you were the guy, that's just stupid. You just shoot yourself in the ass.
Weather is one thing, though, and weather is the only thing that keeps local television newscasts on the air today. It's the only thing. It's live. It's breaking all the time. It's the only thing that can't compete with social media and the internet in general. So I get the weather thing. In many cases, newscasts will lead with weather almost every night if they don't have a top story, or a hatchet murder or whatever. But sports, I get it. People get all their sports off their phone in 2 seconds. They've seen every highlight. They've watched every game.
But you were never the scores. You weren't the scores guy. You weren't the guy to go, this guy 4, this guy 2. That's not what you did.
No, that's my point. It's like you can watch ESPN and FS1 and Fox and every other sports outlet. I get it. That's the thinking of local news management. Everybody's already seen it, and they get their stuff from other sources. But what I tried to do is make it fun and fool around with it, be irreverent, be a smartass, juxtapose everything. Just, but you know better than anybody else that, I've had run-ins with management since day one. I was suspended several times. I was always at war with them. So it got to the point where they were going to assert their muscle, and we're going to put this guy in his place. So,
Yeah, and we're going to cost ourselves money in the process, which is just idiotic.
I don't know. I tell you, one sponsorship story, which I will always remember and always be grateful for. Dick Portillo
Yeah, sure.
sponsored a lot of our newscasts. And I was suspended for something. I was suspended for a week or so for saying something. Dick Portillo wrote a letter to management and said, if you don't put him back on the air, I'm pulling all my advertising.
Wow.
And I appreciated that
Wow.
forever. To this day, I appreciate it.
Yeah, that's the loyalty that you don't see, which is
Yeah.
great. And it's earned because you delivered for him. Now, here's the thing, and we'll talk about this live at White Eagle Golf Club, 7 o'clock, Thursday night, August 28th. We'll talk about the firing. As you know, I've had 11, so it touches my heart that you were there as well. But we'll talk about that. But also, there were, and you said this, that's not why you get fired. Why you got fired is not why you get fired. There were at least a dozen times before that where they could have taken you out legitimately.
No question. That was one of the most benign things I've ever said on
Right.
the internet.
Right.
And what, just a little preface for what we're going to talk about. And I did have to sign a non-disclosure agreement to get paid off. So I have to watch what I say.
Sure.
But it's funny that the person who went to HR and filed the complaint, we had been going back and forth at each other on and off the air for years. We made fun of one another, took shots at one another. It's like a brother-sister thing. But I did find out that I think once she overheard me criticizing her performance, and maybe she was just laying in the weeds until she had the opportunity to take me out. But
Waiting for the moment.
yeah, but it was one of these situations where I don't even want to go to the old white guy, woman of color thing. So it's very difficult to explain.
Yeah.
But hey, I had a year and a half left on my deal. I was counting the days to retirement. I thought 50 years in the business is enough. I'd like to have a life. And so we worked out a deal with my great agent, Joel Weissman, for 6 weeks. We were in negotiations while I was off the air. They wanted to fire me with nothing. And he finally got them to pay me off. I got to retire early. Everything was great. But like I told you before, it's a good thing I'm only half Sicilian, because I never forgive and never forget. My life couldn't be better, but there's that vengeance thing that's always going to be in the back.
There was a retirement soiree, if for lack of a better word, with you, which kind of turned into a roast of you.
Yes.
But in the process of that event, there were a couple times where you had a chance to talk about why we had all gathered at that particular point, the timing. And I saw that look in your eyes, which was Godfather reminiscent. It was, you come to me on my daughter's wedding and talk to, you had that moment.
I did get some newspaper and a dead fish. Well, you're not going to see Clawley no more. Yeah.
So having the room to tell these stories is great, because in these years, and the majority of them obviously in Chicago, you've come across and known everybody. And because of who you are and your talent, your relationship with these superstar athletes and coaches and broadcasters, everybody loves talking to you. You had a special relationship with Michael Jordan. Michael didn't talk to anybody.
Right. But and you're too kind. I think I was just lucky. But the thing with Michael, and I really enjoyed my relationship with him because I went at him right away. And once again, we made fun of one another. We pulled pranks on one another. I wasn't in awe. And,
Right.
Oh, Michael, please. And I think he appreciated that. And one of my favorite stories, which we will retell, he used to play golf at my club all the time at Evanston Golf Club. He was not a member, but he played there constantly. And he would always park his Lamborghini, Ferrari, whatever he was driving that day, way over in the corner of the parking lot by the maintenance shed, so nobody would ding his car. Well, one day he had his purple Maserati, and I drove my car over there and parked as close as I possibly could to the driver's door. And then I left a note on his windshield saying, "Hey, man, don't park so close to my car."
That's fantastic.
So we did that kind of stuff all the time. Spring training, when he was playing for the Sox and took his sabbatical from basketball. Every camera in the universe was there following every move. He's on the backfield shagging balls, and then he's in the cage, and everybody's going back and forth, and everyone's afraid they're going to miss something. So it's constant back and forth, back and forth. And I finally decided we got to flip this. So I'm walking with Michael, my cameraman's walking backwards, and we're videoing him again. I go, "Mike, look, I got a lot of work to do here. You got to stop following me around. Seriously. You got, and we would do stuff like that all the
Sure,
time.
sure.
And I'm a big R&B funk, soul
You
guy.
and me
And
both.
so he's walking, you see him walking down the hallway of every arena
Sure.
in the country, and media's always following him. And he's got his headsets on, and people are trying to get him to loosen up and asking him, what are you listening to, man? Hey, try to get, if you were a tree, what kind of tree would you be?
All
Just
the stupid
the
questions.
stupid stuff. So I'm going mocking what we do. I go, hey, Mike, what are you listening to? And he goes, you wouldn't know. And he gives me the earpiece. I go, it's the Whispers, Walter and Scotty. He goes, how do you know that? I go, one of my favorite bands. How
Right.
about Tower of Power? How about Luther Vandross? How about Frankie Beverly and Mays? He's like, dude,
Right.
yeah. So you
Not just your average white guy.
yeah, you just connect like that. And, he would heckle me on the golf course. And then there was always the caddy situation. I used to get called into the management office at the club, and they'd say, Mr. Giangreco, you're over tipping the caddies. We kind of have a firm, dollar amount set. You don't want to show up any of the other members. And I said, I'm just making up for Michael stiffing the caddies. That's all.
Well, and the fact of the matter is, you're not lying, because I remember playing Greyhawk out in Scottsdale with Gary McCord, and
Great.
and I said to Gary McCord, and Tiger was, this is early 2000s probably. Tiger was just rock solid in his prime, and he said the kids will fight over who doesn't get Michael or Tiger's bag
Really?
because they knew they'd get stiffed. After the
Wow.
first time where they could tell the story, the last thing they wanted to do was haul that monster bag around for 4.5 hours and get a $5 tip or whatever it was, because
Yeah.
Michael lived up to it, Tiger lived up to it, and Scotty was, of course, no tipping pippin.
Yeah. Oh, that's, I guess they felt, hey, you got the privilege of caddying for me. But, that's ridiculous, man. Come on. You got to over tip. You've got to,
Take care of the people that take care of you. It's a principle of life.
and plus that's a personality tell.
Mhm.
You know what kind of a person is, the way they treat service people. And just,
Well, you look at Barkley, and I know you know Charles.
yeah.
Charles was handing out, hundos like Sinatra back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
And, and he would always defend folks and talk about how hard they worked. All right, give me a first impression on Ditka, because you were there.
When he was hired?
Well, when those early first couple of years as coach, when he started to go from tight end to the head coach of the Bears. This is before the whole Ditka buddy thing came up.
Yeah, well, first of all, at his opening news conference, when George Hallis introduced him, he was in tears. He was so emotional. He was so nervous, but so appreciative. I mean, this was his dream job. He couldn't believe it. He was so thankful. He was humble, Mike. And he admitted this well after retirement, that he got really full of himself, and he believed his persona, and his ego exploded. He was out of control. And he was Mr. Pitchman. And, he was an emotional, fiery, motivational coach. He was not a good X's and O's guy. And
Right.
everyone will tell, it was pretty obvious. And we're going to run the ball and play defense, and that's it. But he didn't turn down one commercial. He was the ultimate pitchman. He was one take Mike. He never had to do it again. He just had that gift. He was so charismatic. But he could also be the most cantankerous prick. He could be so nasty. But then you read about all his philanthropic stuff, Misericordia, everything else.
Yeah.
So he had this crazy personality. He was really an enigma. He could be the kindest, sweetest guy, most giving person in the world, and just be an overbearing bully.
But it goes back to what you said a moment ago about, I'm not going to treat you like a star. I'm going to treat you like a guy. I think one of the reasons you got over with Ditka is, frankly, it's the same reason, pat myself on my flat butt here. It's the same reason I get over with anybody who's more famous than the room. They're just people. They're just people.
Exactly.
And Ditka, I look at Ditka and I just go, you think I'm impressed? You can throw, I said it to him on a golf course. So you think I'm impressed? Throw your tantrum. I'm not impressed.
I've listened to all your interviews with big name celebrities, and that's exactly it. And that loosens them up, and they open up because you're not in awe, you're not a fanboy. The difference between my relationship with Michael, other athletes, and Ditka is Ditka hated me. He didn't like me at all, never did, still doesn't. The only time he was ever nice to me was really weird. Cubs are in the playoffs, and might have been the World Series, and we're all going in the media entrance at Wrigley, and there he is with Diana, and he's like, "Hey, Mark, how you doing? Like, isn't this great?" And so I guess the mood just made him relax, and he was actually cordial to me. But he couldn't stand me. And the famous example is, during those Sunday night warfares, I had Steve McMichael, Johnny Morris had Ditka, Tim Weigel had both McMahon and Peyton.
Right.
And oddly enough, Walter and Jim really never said anything. They were third in the ratings. It was between 2 and 5.
Right.
And people would flip back and forth to see how drunk McMichael was and what he was going to do to me, and how drunk Ditka was, and how he was just going to annoy Johnny and throw him off track and ruin his show. And we would go back and forth. They lost a game, forgot who it was against. Ditka sits down, and you can tell he's upset. He's all red. He's got the water buffalo hair thing going like this, and he's so angry. And Johnny opens the show saying, well, Mike, tough loss. Before we start talking about this game, let me just say, I'm never going to talk to that Mark Giangreco again, blah, 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 because I had been making fun of him on the air with graphics and everything.
Yeah.
And my thing was, you're not the president. You're not the Pope. You're the football coach. And that really annoyed him. And what made television history that night was McMichael puts a TV monitor on the set. So we're live on Channel 5, watching Ditka live on Channel 2.
I remember.
Whoever does that. And McMichael's ripping Ditka and making fun of him. And he's hitting me like, "Hey, man, he hates you. That's a bad job." So those were the greatest times of my life, the best times in my career with Mongo on Sunday nights, and my adversarial relationship, with Ditka.
Well, but the thing was, even as much fun as you have, you weren't there to be the kiss-ass comedian. You had a job to do. And a job to do in the middle of entertainment, you always told the truth. And I think that's one of the reasons you had the success you had. And, I know how much Mongo meant to you. And of course, he fought a hell of a fight before he passed earlier. Was it this year? Or how long has it been now?
2020 months. I just want everybody to know how smart, how clever.
Talk about that for a second, because I don't think people understand how smart he was.
Well, he had the very intimidating persona of just being an absolute animal. I was terrified of him, of course, when I first met him. And when he would come in inebriated every Sunday night, he put his head through the wall in my office. He'd smash furniture. That was just to get ready for the show. And he would always bring in his entourage, and his mother, missing a couple teeth with a cigarette, she had a fouler mouth than he ever did. And she always had a new boyfriend every time she showed up. And then, of course, the famous line when he was married to Deborah, she would come in with her girlfriends, and he called them on the air the Kotex Mafia.
That's right.
Yeah. So when we were up at Hallis Hall one day, I brought my kids, and they were very young, the old Hallis Hall. And he comes out, and he's like, "Hey, these your kids?" And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "I didn't even know you were married." And I said, "Yeah, man." He goes, "Hey." He grabs them, takes them in the locker room, wristbands, autographed footballs, T-shirts, hats, and he's introducing them to everybody. And here's the fridge and Dent naked, smoking cigars, playing cards, which I'm sure scarred my kids for life. But he was so great, and he came out with them, and they were just in awe. And he said, "Man, I never pictured you as a father." And I said, "I never pictured you as Uncle Steve."
Right.
But we would have our moments off the air, and I wish that I had video of what we talked about during the commercials and before and after the show, not to post, but just for me to watch.
Sure.
And to relive the serious conversations we would have and the emotional conversations we would have where, it's like, I'm so glad I punctured through that. And I think he liked and respected me, and I feared, loved, and respected him.
You changed his image on it, in Chicago and in the NFL, because people didn't know that side of him, and you helped bring that side out.
He was so funny. And of course, he thought out his appearance every week. He had a different prop every week. Bowie
You
knife,
said, yeah,
my
you said he
neck.
planned it out like an SNL sketch writer.
Oh, he had an actually had a
A chainsaw?
chainsaw that, of course, he detached it so it didn't spin with the blade. But he rigged up this thing where you put the gas, he put Kool-Aid in there, red Kool-Aid, and then he'd fire it up. So the motor would be running with blue smoke and it'd be loud as hell. And he put it on my neck and this red Kool-Aid
Right,
would
right,
be
right, right, right.
squirting out. So, I mean, he had a plan for everything. Cut off my tie, pie in the face, shaving cream, cut my hair, Jerry curl my hair. He brought some rookie from Oklahoma. I don't think he ever made the team. Forgot his name. Big, huge dude in cowboy boots. And he got me in a headlock, and I was 2 seconds from passing out. And
Oh,
he's
he's
like,
going to
"Okay,
sleeper
brother,
hold.
that's enough."
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and then the night he brought in a giant hypodermic needle, one of these big things, and then the needle would collapse and made it look like it went in your neck. And he said, you and I have been working so close together. I'm going to have to give you an AIDS test. And I'm like, uh-oh. So he puts the needle in and all that stuff. Well, turned out the lead story on our newscast prior to Sports Sunday was a woman died from contracting AIDS from her dentist. Okay. The phones lit up. Yeah, it was a horrible thing. He shouldn't have done that bit anyway. So the general manager calls, who was a total jag. He's fired him on the spot. So McMichael walks out. He's got a can of spray paint. There's the big, huge, you've been in the NBC Tower.
Yeah.
In the lobbies, that huge glass wall.
Yep.
And it has the frosted peacock and the NBC logo. And he spray painted genitals on the peacock and then tore down all the pictures that were up on the wall. John Chancellor, Huntley Brinkley, and then
Sure.
even Jenny Jones and Jerry Springer just destroyed the place. But I mean, back then, television was the Wild West to begin with. And we just took it to a whole nother level. It'll never be repeated. If you watched any of those shows now, and they're all on YouTube, you'd probably have to edit it down to maybe a minute 30 instead of.
Yeah, to even get it aired.
And I was always so critical of my performance. I always hated watching tapes of myself on the air. I critique it. That was bad. That wasn't good. You could have done this better. I never liked myself on the air. But I went back and watched a bunch of them on YouTube when Steve passed.
Sure.
That's just part of the morning process. And I'm like, you know what? Those shows were really pretty good.
They were good.
They were great. And I would never give myself a compliment, but he made it so. And he made me a better straight man. And I tried to match wits with him. And, the show's over. He would give me a thing like, hey, that was pretty
good.
I thought I had you on that one. That was decent. So he knew TV. He knew what people wanted. He was a showman. And of course, you go over his career, undrafted free agent. He had it tough, and he had to prove himself every minute. I mean, he was a man's man, and he came off as a rude, crude, out of control animal at times. But if you knew him, you knew he was a lot of man in a lot of ways.
Well, you saw the reaction when he passed, and Dan Hampton, who I know pretty well, really touched by his friend and the situation he was in. And we all get older, right? And you get north of 60, and you start to realize the shot clock is going down as much faster than you thought it would. And I think it speaks to somebody's character about what they say when you're near the end or you're gone. And people lined up to cry about losing Steve McMichael. So here's a good guy. Let me talk to you about somebody else.
Yeah.
Again, you're going to hear different versions of these stories or repeated on stage, whatever. You're going to hear stories Mark Giangreco couldn't tell on TV. Thursday, August 28th, White Eagle Golf Club. Follow the link in the notes here and all over social media and get your tickets while they're still available. All right.
And we'll also have it open for Q&A. So if we miss some stuff or we don't touch on certain things, I will answer all your questions. I'm not going to shy away.
Yeah, which is great of you because you have no idea what's coming. Right. And in honor of your career, we're going to give away a 75-inch big screen TV from Apt Electronics. Thank you, Apt. to somebody they'll win that night. So, speaking of the sad part of the stories, we lost a mutual friend in Harry Tynowitz
Yes.
not long ago, and the funeral was great because it was a packed house and everybody was there. And in the process, and you and I hadn't connected. I'm walking out, and I saw Jared Payton talking to you in the corner, asking for advice about doing TV, and talking to you about the family and stuff. And I know how much the Payton family meant to you, and vice versa. And you had a great relationship with Walter.
Well, the worst moment of my career, the biggest regret I ever had, is what happened between Walter and myself. And people who never liked me, even to this day, once in a while, if I have an opinion, I post something on Twitter, X, or whatever, Instagram, and someone will go, "Oh, yeah, you're the, F you, you're the guy who made fun of Walter when he was dying." Well, that whole thing, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate Jarrett, by the way, gave me a bear hug that rivaled those of his old man.
Yeah.
He squeezed the life out of me at Harry's funeral. And I was so appreciative of that. And he was like, "Man, I just wish I worked in your era. And I watched you and you taught me so much. And now, we don't really count that much. And, the teams are terrible. Nobody's watching television." I'm just like, "Dude, do it for yourself. Entertain yourself. You have a great job. You are talented in your own right. Just, stay with it and try to enjoy it. Don't worry about it." So we had a great conversation in the hallway on the way
Yep.
out of the funeral parlor. But, people remember we hadn't seen Walter forever. So Jared finally decides where he's going to go play college football. So they have the news conference and Walter's there. And he's lost a ton of weight. He looks emaciated. And Brad Palmer, our reporter, was on the scene. I called Brad. I said, "Geez, what's with Peyton?" He goes, "Yeah, man, I'm going to talk to him." I go, "Yeah, please. You have to ask him." He goes, "Of course I will." So off camera, Brad went to him first, not sticking the camera right in his face with a microphone, wanted to clear it with Walter and said, "Walter, do you mind if I ask, are you okay? Why have you lost so much weight?" He goes, "I overtrained for a marathon. I took too many diuretics."
Right.
And so Brad comes back to me with that. So, okay, first of all, I shouldn't have bought that. I shouldn't have said it anyway. It's not an excuse. It was mean and
Yeah, but that's
nasty.
the factual information you were going on at the
Yeah,
time.
but still, it was a mean, nasty thing to say anyway. On the air, we came out of the soundbite of Jared and Walter, and I said, "Geez, Walter looks like Gandhi. I think I could take him." And oh my God, it all blew up. And then, of course, Walter had that news conference where he finally announced what was wrong with him. He didn't want to go public yet. And that's why he lied to Brad. And, but that didn't give me license to say a really cutting, nasty thing like that anyway.
But it doesn't wash away the relationship you had with him,
Well,
and what happened after.
after that, of course, I am out of my mind. He does the news conference with the score and started crying and said, "Those of you who are praying for me, God bless you. And those of you who make fun of me, God bless you too." And that was directed right at me. And I wanted to cut my heart out. I was in tears sitting at my desk. So for the next 2 weeks, I'm trying to call him. I must have called 9 or 10 times, got nothing. And one day, it's maybe 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. I'm getting the 10 o'clock show ready. The phone rings and there's that little voice that says, "Well, you're a hard guy to get a hold of." I'm like, "Oh man, Walter." And he said, "Hey man, listen, I know who you are. I've known you forever. I know you didn't mean it. I misled you. I forgive you." But still, Steve, to this day, that's not an excuse. I shouldn't have bought that bullshit excuse. That was, I'm always going to tear myself up over that.
I listen, dude. I get it, and there's always moments when part of your profession is entertainment, and you're making people laugh. I've done it, not the level you're talking about, but I've done it where you say something in the moment because the line is right there, and you regret it afterwards. I think the important part of that story, though, is that Walter respected you and your relationship. The "I forgive you" thing was just a door opening to take some of that guilt off. It's not that you're not going to. I get what you're saying, but the Peyton family loves you.
Well, Connie went out of her way to be she's so elegant anyway.
Right.
And then, when Jared was very young, I would talk to him on the sidelines and but to see him in the business now and anchoring sports at WGN, I mean, how great is that for him and his family? So, yeah, it turned out okay, but I wish I could go back and do it over. Because look, the difference is you are so quick-witted and you're so even-keeled and just, bam, bam, bam. You're so sarcastic and you do it in a very kind of nonchalant way. Sometimes I got a little too nasty sometimes.
Well, also as a time thing, right? I was working with 3 hours. You were working with 3 minutes.
Yeah,
so
right.
There's an upside there. Let me ask you about one other guy. We haven't talked about him in private, but a guy who certainly mirrored your career, and that's Harry Carey.
Yeah.
Were you there for the first night game?
Yes, I was. Remember, we had to go back because
rained out.
Yeah, rained out. Absolutely was. And those were the days when the sports writers controlled the press box. So whenever there was a major event, playoffs, whatever, first night game, the TV guys and most of the radio guys were outside. We're in the seats, and the Bartman game and everything else. We're out in the seats. We weren't allowed in the press box because it was full of writers.
Sure.
And they control us. We're out there. So you really get, you really feel the crowd. You feel the whole thing. But the thing with Harry was I will tell this story too. Princess Di was in town. Remember when she came to visit the United States? Yep. We hired a lookalike actress she was so good, crown, everything. And so we show highlights of the parade when she came to Chicago. And then we intercut me in a crowd going, hey, Di, come on, I'll give you the real tour of Chicago. We played hoops outside on the South Side.
Well, you had a limo too, didn't you? Am I remembering that right?
Oh, we had a limo. We were doing shots at Sluggers. We go to the Cub game. I get Mark Grace to do this bit. It's your Grace. No, your Grace. Back and forth. We're in the bleachers. She catches a home run ball, throws it back. We're at Mr. Beef. We're doing all this stuff. And it was so great. And I took her to the Bulls game that night. And this is Steve Kerr's the greatest human on earth.
He's tremendous.
So they're coming off the court after the pregame warm-up. And I introduced Princess Di to Michael and Scotty, and they're not quite sure what's going on. They're like, hey, Steve reaches out and he goes, I hope things work out with Chuck. He was so good. But back to Wrigley, Harry, I bring our Princess Di actress up in the booth, and Harry's like, Giancana. He used to call me Giancana. He goes, what is this? I explained the bit. And he goes, come here, honey, sit on my lap. And she's sitting on his lap. And he did the whole, Princess Di is spelled backwards and all that stuff.
Right.
He played it up so perfectly. But once again, Harry went out of his way to be super cool. And when he'd be down on the field pregame, he made sure. I mean, the mayor, he went around in glad hatting everybody, but he made sure that he knew a little bit about you and he would hit you with that. Hey, how's your kid so-and-so? Or did you wind up doing that thing we talked about before? Like he could remember all that stuff, no matter how hammered he was,
Right. No matter how hammered he was, I think it was his autobiography, wasn't it?
Yeah.
No matter how hammered I was.
Well, how about the receipts he had? Remember, he had his book where he never paid for a drink ever.
Yep.
But he had it all logged, every bar.
Right.
Of all his drinks and receipts. And I think that got auctioned off a few years ago.
Well, you got to remember that he worked for the Tribune Company, as did I. So keeping receipts really was an important thing because you weren't getting overpaid, even if you were Harry Carey.
Right.
All right, let's wrap this part up with a Buffalo background. You're a Buffalo boy. You've been a Buffalo boy. You are a Buffalo boy. You always will be. The other day, the Bills get shellacked by the Bears in a preseason game, and the hand-wringing starts.
Yeah.
I know you're not following the games like you used to, but this is your team, and you certainly know the Bears. Do you make anything of that game?
Well, I was there. I went because, I live next door to Soldier Field.
Yeah.
And I went with my brother and my buddy Brad Hoken, who played, And Mike Johnson, who's still at Channel 7, he was my producer when I was there. Those were Mike's seats. So we go, my nephew, his wife were in town, my niece. So we got our whole Buffalo contingency there. And okay, look, they're playing cover one, vanilla defense. It's all the second and third stringers. But look, I've been a diehard Bills fan since 1960. When the AFL was created, I was 8 years old. And tell you how old I am. I have watched every single Super Bowl live, every single one.
Wow.
I will have seen 60 in a row this year, either in person or on television.
Wow.
And I lived and died with the Bills and still do. And of course, if you're a diehard Bills fan, the glass is always half empty. You're always negative. It's always gloom and doom. So yeah, I fear the worst. If I'm Sean McDermott, there are 30 guys that I could have cut after that game. And the Bears are all excited. Oh, Caleb looked great. Everybody's wide open every play. First play from scrimmage, boom. And Sean McDermott after the game said, well, we need to find another safety to go with Rapp. And I'm like, okay, at this point in time, camp's over, and you still don't have a starting safety. Their backups didn't care. They ran half speed. You're trying to make a team. So, yeah, I'm very concerned. And I've been watching Hard Knocks, and they've become pretty pedestrian now. It was a great idea initially, and everybody was so excited about all that access and the swearing and all the inside the curtains pulled back.
Yep.
Well, now we've seen it 500 times, so it's not that great. The videographers are great. The picture, the storytelling, the scripting,
the poetic slow-mo. Yeah, the long shots of the wispy filtering of things. Yeah, it looks beautiful.
Yeah, the way they write to the video they have is
right.
It's great. So the presentation is wonderful, but it's kind of
nobody's saying anything.
Same thing over and over again. And the producer had to take blame for this one. When they were planning to do the Bills, they built their whole first show around James Cook and his holdout and everything else. So he eventually signed. But what they didn't know was that he's not a good interview. He's very quiet. And you think as a producer, they would have checked that out.
Right.
But the thing is, the Bills didn't want to do it. And most teams don't want to do it. And initially, when Hard Knocks started on HBO, a lot of teams turned it down. And they went down the rung until somebody accepted it. And it's usually a team that needs the pub.
Right.
And the Bills really were vehemently opposed to it. Well, now Roger Goodell has decided it's mandatory. You have to do it if you're asked. And I think purposely the Bills are making it a little boring. And just like, we're not going to give you a lot of stuff, and if I have a problem with another player, I don't think we're going to expose that. And
and in a second episode, Josh Allen, a new stadium tour was probably 10 minutes of the episode. Yeah. So I'm not saying for folks that they shouldn't watch it, but
no, I'm going to watch them all. But the thing is, Josh Allen is the real deal. He's like a golden retriever. He's this handsome, fun. Yeah, he's kind of a frat boy bro, but no, he's actually cooler than that.
Yeah, it's a funny dude too.
Be good, do good. He marries this beautiful actress, singer. I mean, he is the real deal, though. It's not an act, and that's why we love him so much. Plus, he's the greatest in the league, and I'll argue with anybody about Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow and all that stuff till the cows go home. But he's the real deal. The thing is, they don't have a number one wide receiver. They don't have a pass rush. The secondary was their strength. Now their first round pick is hurt. They bring back Tre'Davious White, who looks like, he's 75 years old. They're bringing Gabe Davis back for a look at wide receiver. I mean, please, they don't have a number one wide out. Keon Coleman was kind of a disappointment last year. It's like, I am worried sick. And that's because I'm a Bills fan. And then I watched the last episode of Hard Knocks where Sean McDermott basically said, I'm not seeing what I need to see from the guys I expected to see. And I feel complacency, and you guys think you're hot shit, and there's no guarantee that you're going to be as good as you were last year. We still have to get past Kansas City, and the division is better. The Patriots are better.
And you got 52 jobs. And if you're not willing to fight for one of these 52 jobs, then you don't belong here. You know what? So, Don Beebe, I think Don Beebe still lives in Aurora. We could maybe get him.
House of Speed. His mom used to answer the phone. Don Beebe's House of Speed.
That's fantastic.
Said, this is Beebe. And so I would call him, and we did a story on Don. And she would call me back after that periodically and go, "Hi, honey. Do you think you could, Don's got this camp. Do you think you could wedge it into your sports camp somewhere? Can you promote that?" But there's a guy who worked, he was fat to begin with, worked on being fast,
Yep.
fastest white guy in the league. And of course, the classic when they're getting destroyed in the Super Bowl and he chases down Leon Lett, knocks the
Yep.
ball out of his hand.
Yep.
That's the example that every coach and parent shows their kids growing up.
Well,
He's
you know
such
what
a
he was?
super
He was
guy.
he was the Bills version of Tom Waddle, one of your best friends.
Yes.
Because Waddle wasn't big enough, wasn't strong enough, wasn't fast enough, but he had a heart like Secretariat and played his ass off.
I mean, he go over the middle and catch everything. I asked him once, we're sitting around having drinks, and I said, during your entire career, how many balls do you think you dropped? 4. He remembers he dropped 4 balls his entire career.
Wow.
I don't know if you've ever seen the video of him making this diving one-handed catch in college.
Sure. Yep.
It's ridiculous. One of the greatest catches of all time. I don't think enough people have seen that. He is the everyman. That's why he is so beloved, is because you see him on the street, you're like, how could this guy have played in the NFL? He's me. He's one of us.
Right.
But
right.
the greatest human on earth. The thing with BB, when he left the Bills, he went to the Packers and they won the Super Bowl. And he always felt guilty about that. He's like, I got a ring. And when the Packers were taking a knee, they snapped the ball to Favre, and BB was lined up behind Favre in case something happened. And he immediately ran up to Favre and said, "Can I have the ball?" And Brett said, "Dude, you deserve it," and gave him the ball. And he said, "I always felt really guilty about that because my Bills teammates never got one."
Well, I can tell you right now, and it's a fantasy, but a Bears-Bills Super Bowl would have 150 million people watching.
That would be the blue-collar Great Lakes Bowl.
Yeah. So
it really would, because, I told you this a million times. The first time when I came to Chicago, maybe I'm a month into the job or whatever, a few months, and I had people come up to me on the street and they'd say, "Hey, you're that new guy on Channel 5. I'm like, "Yeah." They go, "You're from here, right? What parish are you from?"
Right.
And I'm like, "Oh my God," because Buffalo, you're either Irish, Polish, or Italian. You were Catholic. You were blue collar. The weather was lousy. You were tough as nails. You worked hard. That's exactly what this is. Chicago's like a gigantic, more cosmopolitan, more international Buffalo.
Great point.
BB showed that. Waddle shows that. Those are the kind of guys. Even though Waddle's from Cincinnati, and I always joke with him, I go, "You're not from Cincinnati. You're from Northern Kentucky, dude."
Right.
The airport's in Kentucky.
Don't insult Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Listen, we're going to have fun, man. You know we will. It's Thursday night, August 28th, live at the White Eagle Golf Club on stage, the legend, Mark Giangreco. And I'll be there to facilitate the conversation. We'll get the questions and answers that you wanted, and you'll hear stories he could never tell on TV. I really appreciate you doing this and also doing that, because we don't get a chance to hang out that much.
Are you kidding, man? And we're going to play golf once I get all fixed up here.
Hands all fixed up.
Yeah. And you're the legend. I'm along for the ride on this one. We're going to have a blast.
It's going to be fun. So look in the notes for this episode on the YouTube channel or wherever you get your podcasts, and also keep an eye on social media, or just go to cochranshow.com. Scroll down and you'll see 2 things. You'll see me with no hair and Mark with more hair than he needs. And you can follow the link right there. It says "Get Tickets Now." Buddy, thank you very much.
You got it, man.
Thanks again to our friends at Apt Electronics. By the way, Apt is supplying a 75-inch big screen TV to give away for free from them, from me to you at our live event. When is it and where is it? Well, you know the drill. It's our expensive graphics that we have here. I want to thank all the people at Lucasfilm who put this together when they weren't working on the next Star Wars situation. It's Mark Giangreco telling stories he couldn't tell on TV. Thursday night, August 28th, 7 o'clock, White Eagle Golf Club, open to the public, and we want to see you there. How to get tickets? Simple. Look at the graphic. Go to cochranshow.com. That's cochranshow.com. It's interesting because you see what looks like a before and after picture for hair. You'll see handsome Mark Giangreco. And you scroll down a little farther, you might even see me. But in the meantime, when you see Giangreco, you'll see a description of the show we're doing and a button that says "Get Tickets Now." That's what you click to get your tickets. Get tickets now. CochranShow.com. From the friends that I've had for years at Apt Electronics, we thank you for the support, and I look forward to giving away more of your stuff. You're the best. Apt Electronics, pleasing people since the dawn of mankind. I love that guy. He's the best. And I certainly hope you can make it to our show. And Mark will do, as he said briefly there, he'll answer all your questions. Questions about stories he covered, about athletes you know, about superstars in the business, about things he did, about licking Janet Davies' face. What the hell happened there? All of that coming up live at the White Eagle Golf Club. Oh, where's my fancy graphic? You know, this might be a good time to put my forehead to use. For those of you watching on YouTube, I have a very large forehead. If you're just listening, I'll give you the same information. But let me see if I can put this fancy graphic on my forehead. Well, look at there. Looky, looky. Yep, that's as good a fit as you could imagine. It's Mark Giangreco, stories he couldn't tell on TV, Thursday, August 28th, 7 o'clock, White Eagle Golf Club in Naperville, CochranShow.com. Just scroll down a bit. You'll see a button that says Get Tickets Now, and that's where you get tickets now. Thank you, Ross Cochran, for producing. And we look forward to seeing you at the big event. Giangreco, stories you couldn't tell on TV. Go get your tickets. And there's a link to the tickets as well in the show notes everywhere we post this. So if you didn't get it there or off social media, or you can't remember things from our fancy graphic, just look for the link in the show notes. That's it. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Ross. Thank you for listening and watching. I'm Steve Cochran, and this has been Live from my office.
Thank you for listening to Live from My Office, a service of Monkey Run Productions. All rights reserved. The podcast is hosted by Steve Cochran, and it's mixed, edited, and produced by me, Ross Cochran. Steve is available for corporate speaking gigs. He would love to MC your event, and occasionally, he's funny. Thank you for listening. Head to CochranShow.com for more.